In this clip, we're going to look at how we add a element or a component called a collider to an object. Now, in the type of Unity project that we're doing, colliders are very important because we're going to create a thing called a first-person shooter camera, which we maneuver around like a video game. And one of the issues when you bring in objects like I have in my sample file here, where I've got some walls and a house and some shipping containers, is the first-person shooter controller can walk right through them, because unless you put a thing called a collider on them, they basically have no substance or form, so you can walk right through them. So every element that you bring into Unity, which you want to stop a component from walking through, needs to have a collider added to it. And this also includes the ground planes, which I have here. You need to add colliders to these in order to stop your controller just from falling through the bottom of the floor, because gravity is applied to them. So I've got a number of objects here which I'm just highlighting, and I do need to go through and just add a collider to them all individually. Now, colliders are really easy to add to your Unity objects. So in this case, I've clicked on one of the ground planes here, and to add the collider, I just come over to the right hand side where it says add component, click on add component, and there'll be this big menu here, and the one we're looking for is physics. We just go to physics, and there's a series of colliders that we can add. There's a mesh collider at the bottom, there's a box collider, and a capsule collider. The type of collider really refers to the shape of the object that you have. You can also see there's a sphere collider there. So if we think of the ground plane here, then the kind of collider we want isn't necessarily a box collider, because it's really just a flat plane. We can just add this thing called a mesh collider there. So I've just clicked on the mesh collider. You'll notice that it's appeared there with a little tick on. That means over this area of the scene, the controller won't be able to drop down by the gravity effect through the floor. So I can just apply this same component to each of the planes that I have here. Again, it's a mesh layer for a flat surface like a ground surface. And after I do this, so I've created the mesh collider on all four objects. You can see it here. I can think about the types of colliders that I would apply to things like my walls I have here to stop the controller moving through them, and the containers in the building. Now, obviously with the building, it's a square shape, it's like a box shape, so I can go to the components, go to physics, and this time instead of a mesh collider, I'm actually going to add this thing called a box collider. And if I click on the box collider, it's there and applied to the object. I've just clicked on the box collider so you can actually see how it functions, and basically it's this little green line which appears around the object, so it's actually including the roof of my object here. So for example, if I was making a game where you could jump onto the roof, this wouldn't be appropriate because it's actually going to stop the character or object, if I was able to jump on the roof, from touching the roof, because the box collider is so high. So we can actually edit the colliders if we need to. But of course, because we're just doing a simple walk around scenario, I can just go through and add the simple box collider to all my objects here. So a shipping container is an obvious box, and I'll just apply it to the next element, box collider, and final one, add component, and physics, and box collider. Now, if I had a character, a humanoid character, I might add something like a capsule collider. I'm just going to come over here to the walls, and I could do a mesh collider, but I'm going to actually go with the box collider again, because if you actually look and click on it, it actually wraps around the wall really effectively. So I don't have to do anything other than apply box colliders all the way along. Now, some of you I know are designing things like domes. So if you've got like a dome which is on the planet Mars or something like that, then you might think of using a sphere collider because it matches the form of the object that you are applying it to. And I think I've just got one more object here to add the box collider to. So I have all my colliders on. That will prevent my controller, when I bring my controller in, from being able to walk through and move through the system. So it's pretty easy to bring on the colliders, select the object on the stage, go to Add Component, we choose Physics from the Physics menu, and then you choose a collider which conforms as best to the object that you have